Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of I Feel the Podcast. I'm your friend Sachi Kaur, and here I have my partner
King.
So, last week we discussed about the love that we give to ourselves, and this week we're going to discuss on the love that we give to others and how we show up for others. So, by the end of this episode, these are the two things that you're going to know about. One, the different love languages, and second, why your love language is your love language on the basis of science.
So the concept of love languages was first introduced by Dr. Gary Chapman, and he wrote a book called The 5 Love Languages: How to Express Heartfelt Commitment to Your Mate. And it basically went over 5 different types of ways that people can receive and give love. So the first one being words of affirmation, the second, quality time, third, receiving gifts, fourth, acts of service, and then finally, physical touch. So we'll get a little bit into the neuroscience a little later. But first, we kind of want to talk about our love languages and how we like to give and receive love.
Yeah, and there was, I haven't read the entire book, Gary Chapman's book, but there was something super interesting that he talks about. He uses this metaphor, and that is love tank. Is like, how big is your love tank? Because I feel like whenever we talk about love languages, some people, they want to be shown a lot more love, of course depending upon what their love language is,
right?
And if your partner is helping you fill that love tank emotionally, so you feel like fulfilled in your relationship.
Right.
So that was something so interesting to me, that we have to, in a relationship, two people have to try and fill each other's love tank.
Yeah, because if you don't have anything in your tank, you don't have anything to give to anyone else.
That's true. I mean, I think first is we have to fill our tanks, our self-love tanks, and then there's this tank which is the relationship tank, which of course when we are in a relationship with someone, that person has to help us fill that other tank.
Right, exactly.
So that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah, and also it makes me think about, in relationships in general, just how you know when you have enough to give someone else.
I think that's a very interesting conversation, and it will require another episode for us to discuss.
Maybe next week.
Maybe next week, yeah. So since we were going to just start talking about the love languages, and we know like there are 5 different love languages that people have. So Tisha, what's your love language?
My top 2 love languages would be quality time and gifts. And I think that's because when I was younger, like growing up, my mom would always come home sometimes, or this is just like the first example that comes to mind. Whenever she would come home, she'd be like, oh, I have something for you. I got a little trinket or things for you. And I would always get so excited, like just to see what it was. And sometimes she'll still do that now, like when I go home and things. So I think that's a reason why I really like gifts. It doesn't have to be anything big, but just like something small to show that you were thinking about the person usually means a lot
that's
to me.
Cute. That is really cute. Well, I think that's how, when we are children, and the ways that we've seen love when we were children is what I feel kind of develops into our love language when we grow up.
Definitely.
So when I think about my love languages, I feel like quality time and acts of service for me are my love languages. I think the first and foremost, quality time, why that is because when I was a child, my dad, he was like super busy all the time, and since he did not have enough time to spend with me, I always craved for that quality time. So when we had that time, it just made me feel so secure and so loved.
Yeah, and like you're looking for it now.
Exactly. And so that's what I think I need in my relationships, is that quality time. And I think acts of service is something very cultural. So yeah, we'll kind of discuss about what is the science and why our love language is the love language a little deeper.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we can just go straight into that now to talk about like a little
Okay,
bit of
okay,
the neuroscience
okay.
behind. So one of the reasons why we have different love languages, each of us, is because of our neurochemistry. So some of the neurotransmitters that we have in our brain. So if someone has higher levels of dopamine, they may be more partial or likely to like gifts because of it's activating the reward center.
Right.
But if someone has more oxytocin, which is the love hormone, they might be more partial towards physical touch.
Which is so interesting that just like our chemistry or hormonal chemistry can, how it influences so many of our behaviors.
Exactly.
And I don't think sometimes like we go into that level and we think about things that deeply that, oh, it might just be my hormones. And I think when we're talking about, different people have different nature, I think that's also the reason why, because we have different hormonal chemistry.
Right.
That's why we're all different.
Yeah, and it's not like instinctual for you to have certain love languages that may be going against your chemistry. Like if you really don't like physical touch, maybe that isn't your own fault, it's your chemicals.
Maybe. Yeah, because I know there are a lot of people, like, just in general, not in the relationship aspect, but just in general, a lot of people like don't like too many hugs, or they don't like to be so touchy. So I mean, that's the reason why.
I think that definitely has something to do with it. I know even with family, like I always have to tell my nephew to stop touching me. He wants to put his feet on you or just be like in your bubble. I'm like, please stop. Not that I don't. It's just that's just not my favorite, my top love language.
Yeah, got it. Because now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like although my mom, she likes to hug, but I am more of like a hugger, and I like to hug very frequently to the people I love, and she's not like that. And that is why when I was growing up, I used to feel that, oh, she doesn't love me enough. But that's just not the case. It's just that she's not that very touchy-feely kind of person.
Right.
So it's interesting to know how hormones affect everything
exactly
about us.
Every little aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the other reasons why people have different love languages is the attachment style. I know a lot of scientists specifically, in these days are talking about having a secure attachment style, having an insecure attachment style, and, finding out what's your attachment style been. I think for people who've had a very secure attachment style, they got enough like attention from their parents, and there was a lot of like quality time and all of that happened when they were growing up. They have a very secure attachment style. And some people, I think, who had to, you see children who are always crying,
right,
and they're yelling so that the parents pay attention to them. I think they have, when they grow up, they have that insecure attachment style. And I think that insecurity also comes out in very small things which I hadn't noticed earlier, but now that we go in depth of all these topics, I start thinking about it. I think a lot of times, when you are in a relationship, okay, and somebody you've been texting back and forth with, and it's been a couple of hours that you haven't received a text, right? You'll get so anxious, like, oh my God, where is this person? Why hasn't he or she texted back?
Right.
So I feel that insecurity kind of stems from your childhood in certain ways, and what your attachment style, has been. And I've seen people who are like super secure about everything, about themselves, about life in general. I mean, they understand that, oh, that person didn't text back because, well, he might be busy, he might be,
not taking
into
it
something
personal, pretty much.
Yes, not taking it personally. So there are a lot of small things which stem from your attachment style.
Yeah, the attachment styles in general have seemed to become like a hot topic more recently, and I think it is good that people can at least identify with which one they resonate with the most, and then I feel like it allows you to learn a little more about yourself, and just do like some like self-development type of work to figure out why it is that you act the way that you do, and maybe make changes if you don't like that about yourself.
Of course. And I think it's just when we talked about being self-aware, being more aligned with what we want, what we don't want. Thinking about all these things just
Yeah.
helps you become more of you and the best version of you.
Definitely, yeah. So the last aspect that can impact your love languages is your culture. So there may be cultural differences that exist between different groups of people that would also lead to us being more partial to one type of, I was going to say attachment style, one type of love language or another.
Yeah.
And I guess for myself, what I can think about, kind of in like the Black community, I would say usually when you have like grandparents and stuff and you go over to their house, sometimes they're like forcing food down your throat, like just making sure that you've eaten or that you have everything you need.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the type of love language as far as like families go,
Yeah.
that I can think about culturally. It's a little harder to pinpoint exact one for relationships though.
I know. I mean, of course, when somebody feeds you, you feel like because they make that food with so much love, you can kind of feel that warmth and love when somebody's doing that for you. And I think in the way that it can actually tie into a relationship, where I see in my case sometimes when I talk about even acts of service. So if let's say I'm in a relationship with someone and he's making a meal for me, and he knows that I want to be taken care of and fed and all of that. And because I know Indians, they're very hospitable. They love to do like little things, for people, even as guests or even family. So I think in some ways, that is why acts of service is my number 2.
That makes sense.
As a love language, because that's what I've seen growing up. Even in like the family and everything, everybody just wants to do things for you all the time.
Yeah.
So
it kind of seems like overall there's this nature nurture. I mean, scientists always go back and forth between like what has the bigger impact, and it seems like they both kind of like 50-50 here as far as love languages go, because you have your culture and like how you grew up that greatly impacts how you love others and receive love, and then you have like the biology, the chemistry of yourself that is just kind of the nature of who you are.
Right. That's a great way to, I think, put it when you're talking about, nature and nurture. So nature is your biochemistry and the biology of everything, and the nurture is all of your experiences and the culture and your childhood and everything that you were around when you were growing up.
Right, just to tie everything.
So tying everything, that is how your personalities are formed. That is how your love language is formed at the end of the day. So I think you wrapped it up pretty well.
Thanks.
Yeah. So now we do understand what are the different kinds of love languages and why, on the basis of science, do our love languages differ from one another. So with all that knowledge, I want to start the rapid fire, which will kind of extend our conversation a little bit. So let's dive straight into this well, I think it's not so rapid a fire, but these are very fun questions which we asked actually ChatGPT. If you haven't heard about ChatGPT or used ChatGPT, it's a hot thing right now. Go ahead and use ChatGPT for your assignments and the questions that you want to ask.
Ask it anything and it'll give you an answer.
Exactly. So these are the questions that were given to us by ChatGPT. So let's dive straight into these questions. So the very first being, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear the word love?
We've kind of talked about this several times now, and as we were talking about it, I was thinking like maybe this could be not a typical love language, but a type of love language is just food.
Food is what you think of?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I think my answer is going to be, I don't know what to say, but I think the stage I'm at the moment, and the way like my family has been kind of pushing me that, it's time for you to get married and this and that. So now when I think about love, marriage is what kind of comes to my mind.
That makes sense.
At the moment. Yeah.
Two completely different sides of the spectrum.
Very, very different. Okay, so have you ever taken the love language quiz?
I don't think that I've officially taken it. I just researched the different love languages and just kind of picked the ones that I resonated with the most.
Nice.
But I've never actually taken the quiz before. Have you taken it?
I have actually.
Okay,
I have
good.
taken the love language quiz, and my top two actually came out from that love language quiz. So to everybody who's listening and everybody who's watching, if you want to take your love language quiz, we will drop the link in the description so you can go and take your love language quiz. It's super interesting. My sister actually introduced it to me, and we took it together, so it was really
That's
fun.
Yeah.
So go ahead and take that love language quiz.
And also tell us, after you take it, tell us what your love languages were.
Yeah, that'll be so fun to know.
With that, also, did your answers or the responses that you got, did it surprise you? Like, as you were answering the questions, did you know which top two you would have, or was it like a shock?
I mean, I kind of knew quality time, but I didn't know acts of service was going to be my second. I thought physical touch was going to be my second, but after I took the questionnaire, I realized that, oh no, acts of service is my second.
Okay, nice.
And they're very tough questions, so you really have to sit with yourself when you're taking the love language quiz. But it's a fun quiz, so you definitely should take it.
Nice. I might take it now too, just to see if I'm actually right or not.
Yeah. All right, so do you think your love language has changed over time? I love this question, by the way.
Yeah, the quality time, I don't think that hasn't changed, but I think the gifts definitely, I'm just starting to realize that that's something that I actually do like to receive. Just, I think in like a romantic sense, it's just any sense overall, I like to get gifts. So I just didn't know that about myself. So I don't know if it's necessarily changed, or it's just like the awareness of like, I actually do enjoy this.
Okay. I see. And it's interesting, I think, as we grow up, we realize so many different things about ourselves, and just figuring that out is also a fun process.
Yeah.
So, well, I think, has my love language really changed over time? I mean, pretty much I didn't know that acts of service was something that it was so close to me. Physical touch, I think, of course, as a teenager, that's what you think is your love language, but eventually you get to know that, oh, maybe not. It's down below,
right?
So yeah. Okay, so do you think it's important for couples to have similar love languages?
Well, I think this is a complicated question, because I think the love language you like to receive isn't always what you like to give. So like I said, I like quality time and gifts, but I like to do acts of service for other people to show that I care about them. So I guess I would think it matters that what you like to give is what the person wants to receive, or at least be kind of open to working with them. If I don't like physical touch and someone else does, I have to be willing to at least try.
Right.
If that's how they want to be loved,
right.
You got to put some effort for it. So I guess So I think it's the more what you give, they want to receive.
Just like understanding what your partner actually wants to receive.
Yeah.
Now that I think about gifts, I'm like, I love giving gifts to the people I love. Even family, I feel like I love buying stuff for the people I love, but I am not very big on getting gifts. And a part of the reason why I think is because I feel I don't like, if I get a gift, I'm very unsure if I'm gonna like it or not. So I'm like, you know what,
don't apprehensive.
Don't get me gifts. So it's tough, I think, just in general, for me to like stuff very quickly. So but I love to give a lot of gifts.
Gift giving is fun though, because I like seeing the other person's reaction when they open it.
Yeah, they open the gift.
Especially like Christmas time and things, and everybody's like opening stuff at the same time. I love seeing everybody's like,
that happy reaction.
Yes, that feels so good.
That is nice. Okay, last question of the rapid or not so rapid fire. Do you think love is more of a feeling or an action?
Action. I would definitely. I think you maybe feel in love, but maintaining love with someone takes work.
It takes a lot of work.
So
I think,
I think it's more of an action than a feeling on its own. What do you think?
I agree with you because I feel the feeling, it's that anxiety in the beginning. It's also those butterflies in the stomach and all those amazing release of the hormones in the beginning when you're in a relationship. But with time, it fades away, and
The honeymoon phase.
yeah, the honeymoon phase, it just fades away, and after that, what remains is that conscious choice of loving this person that you're with.
Right.
So it becomes eventually an action more than a feeling. The feeling might just come and go like I feel any other feeling. We're not always happy, we're not always sad, so we're not like always feeling love towards the other person, but it's more of an action.
That
So, yeah.
brings another question to mind. I want to
Okay.
ask you. So, with you mentioning like the marriage and everything, like that's what you think of with love. Do you think that, or are you apprehensive about maintaining that for the long run? Like how you said, the work that comes with it after the honeymoon phase is over. Do you think that will be hard for you, or do you think it's something that will just like come naturally when you find the right person?
I'm scared as shit. I have no idea about this. Truly, I do not know. Like, I know in relationships that it is a lot of work, but then it's I think it's a bigger question of, do you think that you will be able to be with that person for the rest of your life? Because it's a huge commitment. I mean, it's great for people who find that right person, or I don't know really if there is a right person, or you
Right.
make a person the right person for
Right.
you. So that's a whole,
Yeah.
it's opening another can of worms. I
Yeah.
think it's like, can you maintain, or how do you maintain a marriage? Do you think you'll be able to maintain a marriage? I think it's a lot. It's a conscious choice. Like, can you? Do you
Yeah.
want to?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I feel like it would be nice for it to just come naturally, like something you just do
Yeah.
without, like instinctually, but I think it would be a lot of work. It's just going to be the conscious decision to every day and wake up and choose this and not run.
Exactly, because I think running is easier at times.
Definitely.
I don't know. I think we wouldn't know until we're in that
In the
position,
position, yeah.
and in those shoes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, because looking at other couples, when I just think of couples in general, everybody just makes it look so easy.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, I want that too. But then I'm like,
Is it that easy?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. And I think also with like social media and stuff and what people post, you might think that, oh, like how much romance this couple has in their lives and whatever, but in truth, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. 100% true.
So social media is selling us on a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, a lot of false dreams.
Yeah. All right, so that was super fun, and that concludes our rapid fire. And just having this conversation was so great and made me even think a little bit about myself and how I process things. So thank you for being there for this conversation. Loved it.
Yeah, definitely. And also, if any of the questions spark your interest, also just leave us a comment with your response so that you can be a part of the conversation too. So we're going to end this episode with another gem of the week or some food for thought. So this is where we just leave in a quote to end the episode off and the week off. So this week we have, the best love is the kind that awakens the soul and makes us reach for more, that plants a fire in our hearts and brings peace to our minds. And that's what you've given me. And that is a quote by Nicholas Sparks.
That was a beautiful quote. More of like a fairy tale quote.
Yes, it was. It was very sweet.
Okay, so now that brings us towards the end of our episode on love languages and why we have the different kinds of love languages. Whatever you felt, please feel free to write in the comment section. What was your love language? Why do you think your love language is your love language? And we would love to listen to all of that you have to say.
Yes. So thank you guys for listening this week, and check us out next week for the next episode.